All right, so welcome back. Once again, this is our episode on Made in Abyss, and today I'm joined by Bill and Alex from the Gaming and Collecting podcast. Very excited to talk about this. Alex, I know you said you've been waiting to talk about Made in Abyss for a while. Bill, this was your first time watching the show, and so I was thinking, to kind of lean into this. Well, what are some of your top level thoughts here as we get ready to run this thing?
So my top level thoughts on Made in Abyss are, as I watched it, my recurring thought I had in my head was, there's no way this can get darker. Oh, it got darker. Well, there's no way it'll get darker. Oh, it got darker. I see. Oh. It was an interesting trip.
I feel like, too, it lulls you into a false sense of security by looking at the art style and you're like, this is so cute and fun. And then you're like, oh, God, you get to episode 10 and you're like, never mind. All my preconceptions are gone.
And you get to episode 13 and you're like, okay, it's one of these shows. I see now.
Yeah, putting a pin in that one. Yeah, certainly for sure. This show... Although I watched the show a little bit after it was done, but still, 2017, this is on Amazon Prime. So I checked it out and I went, oh, okay, this is rough. It was strangely compelling. But before we jump too far into it, we have every month we've started to do what's called a community spotlight with the Field Guide listeners. And so this being the month of October, obviously it's Halloween and all the spooky things and such. And I had an idea of, a couple of us like to have little Halloween traditions or watch a lot of scary movies and such. So I got to thinking, well, we watch a lot of anime. So I'm wondering if there's anything from anime or this the last thing that y'all watched. Do you think the main character from the show will get you through, say, the Chainsaw Massacre or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or any kind of zombie film?
Well, the episode of the show I watched right before this, I was actually watching the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. I'm not sure I'd be safe. I'm not gonna lie. I love the characters in that show, but I don't think they'd be helping me very much in that situation. I mean, maybe the utter wholesomeness will cause them to change their mind and go the other way. I don't know.
For me, I watched a good show before this. So I watched a Night, or I don't know if I'm saying it right, but Night of the Living Dead, which is basically a zombie apocalypse, but instead of zombies, people turn into
it's all cats. Yeah.
So I think I'd be prepared. I'd be like, yep, these people, they've already lived through it with cats. They can help me out. Or if anything, I could use the guy who always goes, oh, cats are so cute as bait. So I think I'd be okay. I'd be good.
I need to check that show out. It was such a fascinating premise to me, and I love all the clips that I would see. They played it completely straight. There was no winks to the audience. There was no, oh, this is a silly. No, they played it absolutely like a horror film. But the zombies are all cats. But then they would do cute cat things, and so people would get turned into cats because they couldn't resist the cute. It's this is an amazing premise. I love it.
It was very cute. A lot of the cat moments were, but so I did feel like sometimes though I could zone out and do something else at the same time, which for me is if I start multitasking, it means I'm liking it, but I'm not fully invested in it. But it was cute and it was funny. But it was definitely the first couple of jokes were pretty hilarious, and the fact that they kept it so straight horror movie the whole time was pretty good.
That's incredible. For me, I just watched an episode of Call of the Night, but I'm not counting that because it was just time filler. The one before that, I've been catching up on Spy Family to get ready for season 3. Nice. So as capable as Lloyd and Yor are, they're going to be protecting Anya, not me. So I'm toast. I am not primary. I'm not their priority. So they're just going to leave me and protect the kid.
See, The thing with Yor is, knowing her, she might not even notice there's a zombie apocalypse going on, and she'll just be about her day. Unless they attack, and then she'll go in full assassin mode. But
yeah, she is truly the wild card of that series. You never know what she's going to do, but it's going to be amazing no matter what she does. We had a couple. There was some. I know it's the season rollover because over on Threads, I had some responses. One person posted Kaiju number 8 with just the caption, "I'll be fine." and it was Kafka's Kaiju number 8 just punching the crap out of everything. And then on the other end, that was a summer show, and then on the other end we have the new fall anime that seems to be making some waves over on socials. It's the one, what's it called? May I ask for one final thing? The lady who's
Started watching that.
yeah, the lady who's just punching everybody. And again, they were just like, I think I'm okay. You know, she protects me.
Can't confirm from the 3 episodes I've watched. Yeah, she'd definitely protect you, but not to actually protect you, only because she'd enjoy beating up the zombies.
Yeah, I think in that case she'd probably get overwhelmed just by sheer numbers if it's a zombie film, or if it's a case of like versus Jason or something. I don't know. That'd be a toss up.
I don't know, like, because in one of the first scenes, she takes out a whole ballroom full of people.
She does. So I think the chances
single-handedly.
I think the chances are pretty good. In the Discord, we have regular write-ins. You know, Fallen Snow Kiku, she said, you know, she's been watching the Disgaea anime. I wouldn't trust those characters with a plastic house plant, much less my life. So Kiku says she ain't making it. And then Tyler from Anime Degens, good friend of the show, he posted an image of Nazuna from Call of the Night. He said, yeah, she'll probably do it. As I'm not sure how much. I think Nazuna would probably just take him and fly away. So as soon as you have a vampire that can fly, I think you're pretty solid.
Good escape strategy.
Yeah, the
You're
escape
able to
strategy.
get out of there.
Or if we're talking season 2 Nazuna, I would just be saying, just stay out of her way. Like, that's all I gotta say. Just stay out of her way.
Yeah, it's another one I have to add to my ever-growing list.
Yeah, that one's been on my list for a bit, but the list keeps growing and I can't handle it.
It's just the forever backlog. I watched this on like 2022 is when I really like got into High Dive, the streaming platform. And because I originally joined it so I could just watch Made in Abyss, the Dawn of the Deep Soul, and then just dip. But then 2022, they're like, oh, here's season 2 coming out. Then Call of the Night was here. That's when they had Oshi no Ko. PA Works did... what did PA Works do? It was Akiba Made War and Your Boy Kongmei. It's like 2022 is an amazing year for High Dive. So I just stuck around.
I love Your Boy Kongmei.
I love it. I got the TV show just a couple of months ago on the Blu-ray. So it was good to have both of those on the shelf. If you haven't seen Akiba Made War, that one and Call of the Night are both well worth your pickups. But I'd probably put Akiba Made War just because it's a one and done original show. I think you'd really get a kick out of that one. If to get into the Halloween spirit.
High Dive's got some good stuff. Their player just doesn't work half the time.
Yeah,
it's
that
rough.
That's the only bummer. My Love Story is also on there, which is one of my favorites as well. So that's a good get High Dive for that.
So I think we're a little bit good, nice and warmed up now. For the listeners who may not know you two, what is the Gaming and Collecting podcast? And I know, Bill, you're also... I discovered you through Geek Addicts, and you had your Untitled Darker Than Black segment where you also discuss anime. So I'm a big Darker Than Black fan,
nice.
Warts and all, but kind of give us a rundown on the Gaming and Collecting podcast. You know, your slice of the 3 that you do a week. God bless you.
Yeah, so Gaming Collecting... That is our original podcast. We've been doing this one since 2021 now.
2020.
Yeah, right at the start of 2021. We always laugh because the title of our podcast is such a relic at this point. Like, we barely talk about gaming or collecting. It's become honestly more of a gaming / anime podcast / slice of life podcast, I guess you could say, where me and Alex will pick a random topic every week. Talk about like what we've been watching anime wise, go through some life updates. Alex has this cookbook she found on the side of the road that she likes to read now every week.
No, it was in one of those small libraries. It was not on the side of the road.
But regardless, we have a whole bunch of stuff. We very much kind of have a 50-50 split these days of anime and gaming. We have a signature show called Anime Swap, where essentially me and Alex will both bring an anime to the table, and the whole thing with Anime Swap is the shows don't have anything. They don't have to be like similar. Like, they can just be whatever we're watching at the time, as long as they're comparable length, and we'll just kind of each watch both and discuss. It's not really a pitting the shows against each other kind of thing. It's more just Alex had a show she wanted me to watch. I had a show I wanted her to watch, and we'd share and basically kind of discuss them and give our thoughts at the end. And that we've been doing that for a couple of years now.
If there's any competition part, it's the fact that all the shows I've recommended, Bill has loved. So
I was just about to
so I
ask.
have great taste.
I was just about to ask if you ever if you ever had picks to just screw with the other person.
Not yet.
I'm sure that'll come down the line at some point. We kind of put Anime Swap a bit to the back burner this year because this was the big year where I was bullied into watching Attack on Titan finally. So I finally got that out of the way.
Welcome to the club. We have the wing jackets.
Yep. I still haven't slept well since, but I'm just kidding. And then they've also pushed me to watch My Hero Academia finally. So those are my two major watches this year, and I've been kind of trying to branch out more. So
And we do like an annual year-end roundtable where it's a couple of us where we kind of it's turned into a I made it a competition basically against me and Matt of who can watch the most anime in a year. Last year I was the winner with 115 shows / movies. So now it's a competition. So now we're just gonna see who's gonna win. I've already beaten my score from last year. But it's really fun because we get to talk about like our favorite things we watch, recommend each other things, and at the end of last year, that's when we gave each other all assignments of a show we had to watch. So Bill was Attack on Titan, I was Dragon Ball Z, and then I can't remember what Matt was.
Matt's was Odd Taxi, but then he finished that before either of us, so he was like, "I want another rec." So then I gave him
homework.
I gave him Kimi ni Todoke, which he also finished, and then I think his other one was Free Written. He ended up getting like 3 different homeworks.
3 homework
and he finished all of
assignments.
them.
Well, yeah, because those 3 shows combined are still less episodes than Attack on Titan.
Or Dragon Ball Z, for that matter.
I'm about to say Dragon Ball Z is the big. I wasn't going to say. I think you got the raw deal. And Dragon Ball Z is great. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I mean, this is where I would say probably just want to check out Kai or read the manga after some point. Once you hit the filler.
Part of it was that the year prior, we had both promised that we would just watch it before. We had promised in 2024 that we would watch it, or it was 2023, and then we both didn't do that. So we got homework assignments this year because we did not keep our promise.
The funny part about the Kai thing is initially Matt had originally been like, she can watch Kai, that's fine, and I was like, no, she's got to watch Z. She's got to understand.
Yeah. So he made me watch all of Z, and there was ups and downs.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
I mostly wanted her to see the filler. That was really about it.
Yeah, I will say Goku taking his driving license test was very fun.
Yeah, that one is certainly chef's kiss. I'm thinking more, when they were dragging out the fights. You have 5 minutes, and then one fight is 20 episodes. That's more what I think of with Z. But yeah, the manga is incredible. I love obviously Team 4-Star was a very formative time for me in high school when they were doing DBZ Abridged, and so just to see where those guys ended up is mostly inspirational story. Toei will cut you, but they seem to have come out okay in the long run. But yeah, good on you for watching all of Dragon Ball Z. That's a journey that sure. I certainly don't want to repeat it, but I have fond memories of it.
She may or may not have slept through Garlic Jr.
Uh-oh. Well, it's Garlic Jr., so what did you really miss?
I was just like, is it really worth going back and rewatching? And my brain said, no, I just want to get to the next arc.
At least it wasn't Dragon Ball Z plus the Dragon Ball Z movies.
Oh, we tried to get her to watch those, but the dubs aren't on Crunchyroll for whatever reason.
Yeah, they're not on Crunchyroll.
Oh, really?
I was
Wow.
willing to do it. I was willing to watch all the movies, but they're not available on Crunchyroll. And
in a dub.
I do listen to subs, but for me, it's like I have my shows that I listen to subs in, and like I feel like too, if I've watched it in dub, it's hard for me to switch to sub after. It's like I don't know. I struggle with that. I'm like I need it to be the same.
No, I feel that. That's either way. You get used to one language, and it's hard to swap between the two when you get used to it.
I just can't.
I only do that for One
I just
Piece.
can't
That's it.
multitask, so that's my excuse why I watch dubs.
Well, I don't have a good transition to jump into the main top. I was thinking in my head, I'm like shaking my brain of like, how am I going to transition this?
Well, we can jump
We'll just
into an
jump. Yeah, we'll
abyss.
just jump into it. There you go. Thank you. We're just going to jump into
There
an
you
abyss
go.
now. So, like I said at the top, Alex and I are more familiar. Bill, this was your first time watching. So, I want to ask you first, Alex, how did you first discover Made in Abyss, and what was it that brought you in and drew you into the franchise, as it were?
Well, it was funny. I was on High Dive and I was just kind of scrolling through. And then I saw Made in Abyss, and in the back of my mind, I remember hearing a lot about it. But in 2017, when it came out, I definitely wasn't watching as much anime, which is surprising because I think I was in Japan at that time, but I wasn't watching that much, I guess. So I had only discovered it really this year as well. But I was just going through High Dive. I was like, I want to watch something on High Dive. And I said, oh, this is the one I've heard things about. I've heard it gets dark. I'm curious as to why. And that was it. Curiosity piqued my interest.
I was in a similar boat. I briefly alluded to it at the top. I was in a similar boat for a while. I'd heard the rumblings and checked it out on Amazon, and then I was like, "This is really compelling stuff." But man, it was rough. And then, like I said, I got into High Dive
Yep.
so I could watch the movies, and then Dawn of the Deep Soul. And what I found, as far as my first impressions of it, I found it was a very detailed work. Like after I finished season 1, or after I finished Dawn of the Deep Soul, I actually went back and checked out the manga, which I have some thoughts about that for sure. But across both sides, I thought this is incredibly detailed work. And when you think of the term, like the author, and they went out to make this quote grounded fantasy, I get it. It feels real in some aspects. Like it feels plausible enough. You know, there's obviously like the journey to the center of the earth influences, and you know, he came up with the idea. The original author was in a natural history museum and saw a diagram of a tree and went, "Oh, that's cool. I can make a story out of that." And all of the environments therein. So I find that aspect fascinating. I was not expecting it to go as much into horror as it did, and so
Oh yeah.
it was a very compelling series. But it was also I was thinking of other shows like From the New World, or what it was also called like To You in 1,000 Years on a Crunchyroll, or last year's, or 2023's last year's, what was it, Heavenly Delusion. We just had Takapi's Original Sin. You know, I was like, okay, this is very much in that corner of the anime side. Perfect Blue, maybe not so much psychological horror, but like body horror sort of deal. Yeah, you guys just
Yeah.
talked about Perfect Blue, I think.
On,
No, I'm thinking someone else.
That was Geek Addicts.
It was
That'd
okay.
be,
I
Yeah.
was correct. Like you did just see Perfect Blue. So I was in that. Once I got into that headspace, it helped me adjust a little bit better. But my first impressions, this show is very shocking.
Oh
It's-
yeah.
it's the unexpected nature of it that I think gets you.
It's the surprise. I think it's a lot of the surprise, like especially because like in season 1, we kind of said it already, but like really up until episode 10, it's not as like the best way to describe is gruesome as it does end up getting. And at that point, it just kind of flips and like no one's safe. Like there's not safe. This world is not as pleasant and happy. Like there's definitely a shift and a change. I like relate it to almost like how people like with Full Metal Alchemist, they always say it's like episode 4 or which one?
No, it's
like where
episode
it's
4.
like
Yes,
oh
yep, that's the one.
episode 4 where it's just like oh okay, but you're very much into the show.
Literally, when
You're like why did you do this?
Matt had got me to watch it, he was literally like, "Get to episode 4. If you're not hooked by then, you won't." And I was like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay, this episode's kind of cool." And I got to the end, and I was like, I just texted him back. I'm like, What was that?" Like,
Yeah.
and why do I have to watch more?
I think was a similar reaction when you got to episode 10 of Made in Abyss to me.
Because essentially, if we're thinking about the world and setup of Made in Abyss, you know, this is a story about a hole in the ground, and things are pretty easy at the top. You know, it's pretty easy to get out. The creatures are mostly docile, but the whole nature of it's not just a hole in the ground. There's something about this force field, and it's both the force field and the creatures just get exponentially more dangerous as you go, but it really doesn't get truly bad until you get to like layer 3, when
Yep.
things like really start stealing away. Because I mean, most of the time you get glimpses of it, I think, with the beginning of the show, which one big difference I would say between the movies and the TV show, I haven't seen the TV show all the way through since 2017. I've essentially got the theatrical collection from Sentai Filmworks. And so my experience with the show has been almost exclusively through the movies since like 2019. And I didn't watch the show again this time because I still remembered things. But like so much of the show at the beginning lulls you into this false sense of security because so much of it is set in the village or in the town, around the rim.
Yeah.
In the first layer, in the second layer, you have a whole survival arc if you even want to go back to Full Metal Alchemist, on the island. And then layer 3, in the movies, they even went out of like, this is what, when you start hallucinating, when you start trying to go back up, you start getting like really deep. You get to about layer 4, the abyss all but has you at this point. And so that's when they really start turning it up. And I think that's why part of it is just so, because you said it's 10 episodes. So it's just almost seems to come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I will say on my initial watch, I found the start to be very slow. I wasn't quite grasping it at first. I was kind of like, okay, I'm trying to see what the draw is. Then they start getting deeper and deeper, and like you actually start seeing that you start understanding more of like what makes this world so bizarre and like compelling. And by episode 10, well, even before episode 10, like once they get to waiting point, with the I forget her name, the first white whistle they encounter.
Oh, Ozen, yeah.
When they get there, that's kind of when the show really kind of clicked with me, and I was like, oh, okay, it's going somewhere now. And then from there, it just keeps going and getting more shocking as it goes.
Yeah, and I think if you were to go back and say a year or two or so and just watch the compilation films, I think you'll find that movie 1 is much more interested in getting into the action. There's almost no time spent in Orth, in the town. They are almost immediately at layer 1. Rico and Reg are on their way. And I wish they would have kept more of the training arc under Ozen, but most of that movie is, we're going to set it up, we're going to spend layer 1 and 2, and then the first movie ends at the lip of layer 3, the Great Fault. And then movie 2 basically skips the entire fault. Like it just shows them, it skips when Rico has to carry Reg after he fires off the annihilator, the incinerator.
Yep.
It skips that part, so you actually don't see the cursed hitter in layer 3, which I thought was a little head scratchy. But movie 2 is almost all of like, it's almost 1 for 1 with the events of the 4th layer, and that's when they also added more animation to bring it closer into. They started to tie it in more to movie 3. So you started to see Nanichi with her past. So I think overall it's a more streamlined experience. Sure, I would prefer to see like more of the survival arc and the layer 3, but it's more interested in getting you to the true meat of the story when the rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
When shit gets dark.
Yes.
It's actually really funny. When I was watching this too, in the past, I'm a big fan of the Etrian Odyssey series. People have always said like, this is like the closest thing to like an Etrian Odyssey anime we'll probably ever get. Art style, I see it. Maybe not so much concept, but I definitely get the art vibe a little bit.
Yeah, because the manga author, you can see it in some of his designs and his characters. Because speaking of Etrian Odyssey, Tsukushi Akihito, he worked for Konami from the 2000s. He mostly on characters and monster designs. Now, he didn't work on Etrian Odyssey, but he did work on Suikoden 3, Sword of Etheria, the dating sim on the DS, Love Plus. But there is one game that I was able to find where it was kind of where he did both video games and anime. If you look up the game Fairy Musketeers, it's from the mid 2000s, like 2005 OVA, and then it got a TV series the next year. You look at his character designs on Fairy Musketeers, And I'm going, that's just proto Made in Abyss. And if I look at the characters on like Etrian
Oh,
Odyssey,
yeah.
like, yeah, I can certainly see, yeah, you see them right now. Like, yeah, you can see the DNA, the cross DNA. And even the nature of the Abyss, like there's literally a video game that came out in 2022. But like if you think about it, like this whole structure of the Abyss being divided into levels, everything else, it reads like a nature documentary. I will say this for the manga, that the author's notes are aplenty. Me being a fan of Ghost in the Shell and Shiro Masamune and him just, filling in the margins with all these notes and almost like research material. He's got Sakushi-san has a similar deal where he'll just say, I'm going to devote a page to drawing this bird and tell you all about it and how cave raiders use it, or this plant or this animal. So it's really interesting to see just how he designed that world and how the staff at Cinema Citrus really just brought it to life in this show.
Yeah, the manga, I definitely want to start. Well, so far I have the first volume, but I want to definitely start reading it soon because, well, one, I want to keep knowing where it's
Right.
going, and two, like I always love going back and experiencing it via the manga after watching it. All the extra notes, all the drawings of the beasts, the characters, like that's the stuff you don't get to see in the show as much. So I'm looking forward to start reading that.
Yeah, he's got an interesting style. It's almost, I wouldn't say watercolor, but it's almost like an ink and paintbrush sort of style. It's a very soft palette. So yeah, much like how the anime has all the round characters and everyone has this cute looking style. And then you see how he twists the scenes from the anime, and you can see it in the manga, how, Ozen looking scary, and the way he does lighting as well, because it's where he like just has dark brushstroke for shadows when like you see Bondrewd and other villains in the show, when the faces turn. For being a web manga, he's got an interesting way of how it translates into paperback manga, but he still does a good page turn when you want to see something spooky.
He gets you.
He does get you.
That's why they're sealed whenever you go to Barnes & Noble.
That's not why they're sealed.
Well, we always have a motto. If it's sealed, it's one of two things. Actually, it could be both. It's gory or it's porny. It's one or the other.
In this case,
both.
It's very much both, which I would like to read one conversation, because I usually leave the listener comments off to the side, but this one from, again, also Tyler, is kind of a salient point where he basically says, he normally likes the dark and gritty shows like Made in Abyss, and especially if it has a really good style. We've talked about the lore and the creatures and all the environmental detail. And the main negative, I will have to say, especially if you're going to go read the manga, is a lot of naked kids in this manga.
Yeah.
It's not a good look. And that's something that's just like really, it's not even so much the gore factor of this. It's really just that. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Cause I remember when I was watching it, and then I was just kind of like on Reddit / Twitter, just kind of looking up. I wanted to see, like, I love looking at like people's art and stuff that they made, and then like the conversations of that definitely started coming up, and I was like, oh, okay. Like I hadn't really experienced it that much in what I had watched so far, so I was like a little, I don't know. I did end up keeping watching, but that's definitely a point that should be brought up, because it is a little bit of a questionable.
I will say it did kind of off-put me a bit to the show at times. Like in the third movie, there's a very particular scene where I had to kind of pause and just be like, what did I just watch? The scene where Reg gets captured and they're cutting his arm off. That scene to me was like, I didn't know what to say when I saw it. I was like, okay. And I just kind of moved on from it after. But yeah, there are some moments in the show where I would kind of raise an eyebrow a bit.
Especially so, and that is the toned down version in the anime.
Imagine.
Oh. The manga, like, I'll just say this, like the anime removed a lot of nipples. So that was just...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there are just certain characters that he's a bit more free with nudity in the manga, which I read it in 2022 after the end of season 2, and I read a little bit past, and that's as far as I've gotten. After a certain point, I just said, I'm just going to be an anime only watcher, because this is getting to be a bit much, especially reading the events of season 2, which that's where the body horror just goes way off the
Yeah.
rails. I find it fascinating.
Oh
I
yeah.
find it fascinating with all the different, like, frankly, eldritch designs that he comes up with. Because at that point, you're just it's the point of no return. You know,
It's
things just
Yeah.
turn alien.
it's really weird to me how like it's just how anime does like certain things to you because like I recently watched The Fly for another project and that is one of like the most iconic body horror films of all time. But like
Absolutely.
I watched that and I'm like I'm more like these effects are amazing rather than being kind of disturbed by it. But then I think back to like when I saw Akira at 11 and that like messed me up for a long time. And like I still watch Akira and kind of get like it's just how well they animated it to the point where whenever I look at it, I just go, I'm like, that is just uncanny. I don't like it.
Yeah. The beauty and the grotesque.
Mm.
So obviously that would be the biggest roadblock, I would say, to getting into this.
Especially like don't let appearances deceive you. Especially like if cuz from the outside, like just looking at the cover of the first volume or even just the first couple episodes, I feel like this is something that someone if they saw their kids watching it, they would not question it. And then you get to later and then it would be like, "No, no, no, you can't watch this." So, the look can be deceiving.
Again, kind of returning to just how much it's a very pretty show. Like it's almost like a nature documentary in some instances. And there was something about the backgrounds and like the environments of just Made in Abyss. And I was looking around, I was like, why does this look so familiar? Well, we've got someone here who has worked on a number of movies with a distinctive style. You know, I'm talking about the art direction. This is helmed by a man named Osamu Masayama, and this man started his career with backgrounds at, stop me if you've heard this one, Studio Ghibli.
Ah,
We have a Ghibli
Yep.
vet working on all of Made in Abyss, and I'm talking Spirited Away, Moving Castle, Tales from the Earthsea, Ponyo. He also has experience with Makoto Shinkai films. You know, The Girl Who Leapt Through
ah,
Time, Children Who Chase Lost Voices. Yeah, Your Name, Weathering with You. He was on backgrounds for those, and he was an assistant
wow.
art director on The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. And it goes even further. You know, there's a lot of production IG staff on here, like some bleed over because Cinema Citrus was founded by some production IG staffers. So Masayama's also worked on Eden of the East, which was like an original, I think it was an original series. But also he was in an advisory role for My Happy Marriage and Card Fight Vanguard. He did
Wow.
backgrounds for Shangri-La Frontier, which is one of my favorites from last
Wow.
year. Dungeon Meshi with Trigger. So you just start looking at the pedigree of this guy as he's working on these before or during Made in Abyss. It's like, okay, yeah, no wonder the environments are incredible.
I will
Yeah.
say, like, watching it, like, one of the things that caught me was, like, you look in the background and you'd be like, this is such a grotesque, like, kind of disturbing place, but my God, is it pretty, like, to look at, which I think adds to the uncanny of it.
I think especially with season 2, when you start kind of really discovering like the world around them and why it is the way it is, like when they start going into the town of I'm brain farting the word right now, but the village, and it's beautiful, but then you discover why the town is the way it is and why it looks the way it does, and you're like, oh, this is a little scary.
This is horrifying.
Yeah, this was a person. Ah.
Yeah, because even on the upper layers, before we even get to season 2, it's just everything is so like lush and natural, and the fault being an exception. But there's just so much going on in the background, and you see all these strange creatures flying around, and it's one of the highlights of what I would say really defines just the natural beauty of Made in Abyss, and all of these creatures being so specialized for each environment. And but then even on the like the upper layers, you have things like called like the corpse weepers. You have right before Bondrud's layer, or like right before you hit layer 5, you know, the flowers of fortitude. Now you have bugs that
Yep.
also use cave raiders. They kill you and then they kind of keep you alive and use your vocal cords to draw in more prey. It's just like all these things that become more specialized, killing sentient life. And again, the curse only affecting humans, just something about it. In all the beauty, there's always some kind of hidden danger that seems to be specifically targeted at killing humans.
The curse itself too is really like freaky how like the way it just progressively gets worse and worse, and then once you get to like the curse of level 6, and you're like, oh, this is bad.
You're just donezo. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the very traumatizing scenes is like when you find out like Nanachi's backstory and how Nanachi became the way that they
Mhm.
are. And that's just like, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like that's what happens if you go try and ascend from the abyss. And it's just like, holy crap. Because then there's also that in your background mind of like Rico's going on this adventure and she's not gonna make it back. Like, because how could she? It's like it's interesting to think about. Is this going to be a happy ending or is this going to be a bad ending? Like, I
I
don't
always
know.
was thinking about it, like if I was in that predicament, I'd be so terrified to even slightly step upward and be like, no, like we can't have that.
What's funny too is I got that like Switch game, and one of the things that like it actually did give me anxiety because in the game when you ascend, it does like start killing your character, and you had to be really strategic about it, or like you would die. Playing the game and then like watching the show again, like it kind of gave me extra anxiety every time they stepped up anywhere because I was like, oh my god, you're gonna die.
I do find that speaking of that journey, this is ultimately, I don't know if the ending of this is going to be a tragedy because it's certainly a tragic journey, but that's another thing that the story does is just because the character of Rico, she is so endlessly optimistic and there's such a clear goal that I find myself sometimes forgetting that this is essentially a journey of no return.
Well, and especially like after third movie, like they do say when they go into like elevator eyeball situation that you're not coming back from this. Like there's no going back up. It's an unknown of like I don't think this is going to be a happy ending, but I still want to know what's happening. But then there's other things that go in my mind because like the narrator I always remember is Rico's mom.
Her name, her name's
right now.
Liza. Liza the Annihilator.
It's Liza's voice actor. So part of me is like, is this intentional that Liza is telling the backstory or is it just they chose it? I don't know. But reading into it, my mind is like, okay, is Liza telling the story of Rico? That's what I want to know.
Absolutely.
And is Liza alive? Like that's a big thing too of why Rico is journeying into the abyss.
And it's all like super compelling. I think one thing I think if you go and read the manga and kind of come back to this, you can pretty much say I think the anime does a really fair job at balancing all that incredible detail and all the notes and kind of making it from that manga and translating it into a more digestible format while also not shying away from what makes this so freaking scary, honestly. Yeah, I think overall, like the anime does a really good job of like bringing this vision of this natural world, this dangerous thing that almost seems like it's just designed specifically as a trap, and bringing all that detail and keeping it just in the background enough to where you kind of think about it, but then knows exactly when to pull that rug and really begin the true descent. And I think a lot of credit goes to that the staff has consistently worked on this from 2017 all the way up until now. We're getting another movie next year in 2026. And of course, at the helm, I can't believe I've gone this far without talking about him. But obviously, the director here is Masayuki Kojima. And he is a name that I was like, okay, where have I heard this before? He was previously attached to Madhouse. He started with a show called like Azuki-chan in 1994 and its movie. But chiefly, I know him as the director for some Naoki Urasawa adaptations. So he was the director on Master Keaton, and he was the director on Monster. Have you guys ever seen Monster?
I have not.
Oh, man.
I've seen clips. It's on my list. It's on my list.
Monster is like
the never.
Yeah, Monster is the psychological thriller. If you know anything about Naoki Urasawa, he is the psychological thriller guy. And even just not last year, it was 2023. There was Pluto, which is the adaptation of Urasawa's manga from Astro Boy, one of the arcs of Astro Boy. And again, that was also former Madhouse staffers. But, this guy is the director of Monster. I was like, it makes sense. Now, Kojima-san, he has been with Cinema Citrus since like 2011. They brought him in on this series called like Boso Shinki Moon Angel. Basically, Konami had a line of action figures and model kits with the sexy robot ladies. He also directed the 2025 season of My Happy Marriage, so that's a more
Wow.
recent example of what he's done. But with Cinema Citrus, they brought him in like some gag comedy stuff, and then he also did like one of Cinema Citrus's early big anime series was like Black Bullet from
Oh,
2014.
okay.
So it's like
Oh,
Black
okay.
Bullet, My Happy Marriage, and Made in Abyss are like his big ones with Cinema Citrus. But as soon as I was like, oh yeah, this is the Monsters director, he knows exactly what he's doing. Getting into like the character designer, you can't do much better than Kazuchika Kisei. He's one of the big three art directors at Production IG. Talked about him more in like the Ghost in the Shell 2 episode. But he's been with Production IG since like day one, like since the Zillion days. And then Pat Labor, he was the animation director on Pat Labor movies and the OVAs. But he also, if you want like other character designer credits, he did the character designs like on Holic and Blood Sea. He's done some directing with Ghost in the Shell Arise. But yeah, his big thing for me is like the Pat Labor experience, the Ghost in the Shell experience. He's one of the big three at Production IG for a reason. So you start going through and you find, even in the TV series, you go from the TV series to the movies, there's not much really to clean up. It was already looked like a movie level production. It's what I think I'm trying to say.
I think one thing too that we haven't brought up as well that I think makes the show so special is the soundtrack
Absolutely.
itself.
I got him down here.
Yeah, because that's honestly what really was drawing me into the show. For me, like if a show has a really good soundtrack, I'm in. Like it really does help me enjoy the experience, but I think it also adds to the immersive experience that this show brings because in those like intense moments, the music fits perfectly which with each scene and like each feeling it's trying to kind of make you feel while watching it. And I play the music in my background like while I'm at work. Like I just love it. Like the soundtrack makes the show.
How would you describe said soundtrack though?
Well, for me, it's very relaxing, but also kind of what I was saying earlier. Like in those moments where I need to feel on the edge of my seat, I'm on the edge of my seat. The music builds its intensity as it goes, but it's very natural. It's very like I'd say almost like eclectic. I love the use of for the most part it's instrumental, but when they do add some of the vocals to it, it just adds to the experience and the calming nature of it, which is also kind of funny because when you're thinking about like the show in the abyss, there's this beautiful song. I think it's called like The Journey to the Abyss, I believe is the name of it, which is like the main score. And it's like so calming and pretty and beautiful. But then you're like, as you're going down this abyss, it's calming and beautiful, but it's also most terrifying thing in the world too. I love it.
What'd you think of the soundtrack, Bill?
I enjoyed it. I didn't like examine it as much as I believe Alex did. I had it as a case of like where I would be watching the show. I'd listen to the music and there'd be like these certain cues that I would repeatedly hear. Like when it comes to an anime soundtrack, I really like stuff like that where like a recurring
Motif, yeah.
motif, yeah. Because I was recently watching like two shows I watched this year, like Attack on Titan has a lot of motifs that kind of stick with you throughout the entire watch, and then My Hero Academia in particular has a whole bunch of recurring tracks. Anytime you'd hear them, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is when something important's happening. And I noticed in Made in Abyss right away, there was plenty of moments there, like especially when like things got ramped up and serious, the music would very much go along with it.
Yeah, it's an interesting style of a soundtrack. Have any of y'all played any of the Nier series or like Drakengard, kind of like that soundtrack?
I have.
To me, like I'm thinking about the certain tracks, and at some points, like the Abyss, of course, like feels like a character, but it's almost like ethereal, almost in a sense. Funny you should mention Attack on Titan. Like Kevin Penkin, the composer, I'm not going to compare him to Sawano, but he likes to do like the orchestral and then mix in a little bit of synthesizer as well. So in the more tense moments, all of a sudden you start having that digital noise or the beats that I sometimes associate with Sawano. Now, Kevin's not going to do a Sawano drop in here,
Yeah.
or he's going to do it and it's going to be like super drawn out, like a more like orchestral. It's an interesting style because I don't know if the soundtrack really fits any sort of quote genre. And it was something that they just
Agreed.
they were just kind of going with. It's like just to make a soundscape. It was something that when I was going through the DVD credits here, and the music producer Hiromitsu Ijima, it said it just compared the music making process with when he was trying to describe it to Kevin to almost like a making a first album experience. You're not really sure the direction so much, or you have a direction, but it's more like just going by feel. I don't know. Even like the director and everybody was, as I was going through like one of the extra credits on the film, it's like, this is not music that you typically find in anime. It's not a quote anime soundtrack, as you would say, like
No,
My
yeah.
Hero, where everyone has a character theme. It's just interesting, and he swings around like it's got a central motif, but he likes to play around with his food a little bit. I think at certain elements, like in season 2, he played more with like sampling and more of the synthesizer things because we're in more of an alien landscape where I think in the upper, or like I'll just say pre 6th layer, like 5th layer and up, all of the true like abyssal stuff. And I was surprised he hasn't been composing as long as I thought. Like he started his career and he's done like video games and things as well. Like he even had a partnership with Nobuo Uematsu. And that was on like a Norn 9 project. I think that's how it's pronounced. But like Norn 9, that was like a video game and an anime production, just also Cinema Citrus. So I think that was how. Also, they did like a short OVA. So he had Norn 9 and then this OVA like called Under the Dog, which is like a Kickstarter project that was funded by the studio. And so that got his foot in the door to where he's now also on the soundtrack for Rising of the Shield Hero, and he's been with that.
Yay! I like to pretend that's a 1-season anime, and it never went on after the first
Correct.
season.
So we're going to move on.
Yeah. Wait, but we can also bring up though he was also the composer for the Apothecary.
So you beat me to it. Apothecary Diaries. There you go. And then he's continued with that. So that's another one of just more traditional soundscape. Now he gets to actually bleed more of like a genre music with the time. I would say like time period music, as well as Spice and Wolf, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf. He went more of a Celtic direction, like a folksy Celtic direction. I was listening because I love Spice and Wolf, the original series, the manga / light novels. Have any of y'all seen Spice and Wolf?
It's on my list. It's on my list, but I've seen clips. It's a long list.
I've seen the characters a lot,
but you know, it's like so you've at least seen Holo and like the Wise Wolf herself, and like it's a story about speaking of grounded fantasy, Spice and Wolf, excellent grounded fantasy, so like a medieval merchant style. But anyways, Kevin Penkin's take on it is to go a little bit to the original series, but then he very much makes it his own. But when Holo is transforming into her wolf form, that's when all of a sudden I started hearing soundscapes, and I'm going, oh, that sounds abyssal. But it's arguably to say that his work with Cinema Citrus, Shield Hero, and Made in Abyss certainly put him on the map. And then now you also have Apothecary Diaries and Wolf, Pokemon Paldean Winds. And then you have, that's not even to mention like all the vocal tracks. You know, one of the premiere tracks from Made in Abyss, Underground River.
That's what I was thinking. Yep.
Yeah, and it's only like a little bit over a minute. And it's a guy named Raj Ramaya. And I was like, I know I've heard this guy. And he did Ask DNA from Cowboy Bebop the movie. But then the big one for me was Strangers.
Oh.
He's the vocal for Strangers from Wolf's Rain.
Okay.
You got a fellow, Takeshi Saito. He did a lot of if you're talking about most of the vocal tracks from the first season, that's him. If you see anything that has like a Hans Zeev and etc., that's him. I'm trying to remember. It's VOH, Vol in season 2, and then a couple of other extra tracks from season 1. And then I kept trying to think, I kept getting Takeshi Saito and this next guy mixed up, but a fella named Arnar Dan, and he's the fella who sung Gravity from season 2. And I was sitting here going, because I kept thinking Takeshi Saito was Arnar Dan because they have a similar, just the delivery between like Hans Zeev and Vo and Gravity are kind of similar, but no. Arnardine. The only other thing I could find from him was Terror and Resonance, where he did vocal tracks. That was a Shinichiro Watanabe and Yoko Kanno collaboration in 2014. Just some incredible, like those three guys, in addition to Kevin Penkin's soundtrack.
He just was able to pick like the right voices to just really add to the experience. Like whatever thought he had to just be like, this person sing this and we'll add this to the music and this layer. It's just, I don't know how he did it, but I think he's amazing.
It's one of those things where it's like, how can such a beautiful like product be so ugly at the same time?
Yeah.
Why is it playing to this?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to censor the TV or like, mosaic the TV, but
Yeah.
I don't know, it just sometimes this soundtrack is just ethereal. Those three gentlemen just really add to it and just really ground it. I think that's another thing of just vocal tracks in anime are typically like the insert songs. You typically don't have these like long, like choral, almost like vocal deliveries in like your typical anime. And then you had some of the ending credits. I'm not going to go into everything, but there's one group in particular that they brought in that I think just completes the package. And that's the collaboration group Myth and Royd, who were brought in for the ending credits for movie 3, that was Forever Lost, and then Endless Embrace, the credits for season 2.
Oh, I was just going to say, we really lucked out in the music department on this series because the intros, outros, everything is just fabulous.
Well, we talked about music. Do you want to go on to some voice performances or the voice actors? Let's get into the characters because you talked about the animation, the music. And of course, I'll be playing some tracks through this episode that will, of course, inevitably have to be taken out for YouTube. But the vocal cast, I think, are there any standout performances? I'm not going to go through like absolutely everybody, but like our narrator, our main three.
So I exclusively watched dub, so I'm not particularly knowledgeable on the sub, but I will give
Perfectly
some
fine.
thoughts on the dub performances.
Absolutely.
I just got to bring them up real quick.
I really love Liza's voice. And I love that she does the narration because it leads me to think of so many spirals. But I really do enjoy her voice performance. But I honestly, there wasn't like a single casting because I feel like there's definitely with other shows I've watched and even some of my favorite shows where sometimes I like listen to the voice acting. I'm like, ooh, maybe they could have said that better. But there was never really a moment in this where I was like, ooh, I didn't like that didn't sound good or like I didn't like that. So I really thought that they had a very solid cast in this one.
It's interesting because it's like a mix. So speaking specifically via dub, it's kind of an interesting mix between like a lot of like very normal Sentai actors and then some freelancers who are more familiar with Funimation these days. Well, Crunchyroll, I guess nowadays, but it's an interesting mixture. Like a lot of the voices I didn't immediately recognize. Like I noticed Reg right away because that's Lucy Christensen, and she's
Obviously,
everything at this point.
We have some old school ADV actors in here that I was sitting there going like, I have heard these ladies talk forever.
The one I noticed right away was Brittany Karbowski as Nanachi because
oh yeah,
she's basically just doing her Rimuru voice for Nanachi. But also, anytime I hear that voice now, I immediately just think of Ghost Stories and the Rabbit Girl, and I'm like, that's got to be her most random role she had, but like it's the one that I always think of. Also, I didn't realize Midi was Monica Rial. Yeah, but other than that, like most of the voices were pretty good. I will say, like the only voice I didn't particularly like was he's not very prominent beyond the first few episodes, but the instructor up top, Jiro. I wasn't really big into his voice. I don't know if he was intentionally going for a monotone voice, but I don't know. It didn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I think Jiro, I think they were trying to go for like an exasperated delivery, but I hear that. I haven't had to bother much with Jiro in the movie, so he's kind of there and gone.
Other than that, though, like the main trio, like their voices are excellent. Brittany Latta as Rico does a phenomenal job. Yeah, pretty much other than that, though, it's a very solid cast.
I love
some pretty well-known actors.
I love Bondrewd's voice too.
Absolutely. Both actors killed it.
Yeah, they did great because like he like really kind of left you in some moments, like especially because his personality was so like in his mind what he was doing was like a good thing, even though he was doing terrible things in order for his research. So he has like this such almost like happy go lucky voice. He's doing these evil things and you're just like you're torn between the two. But I loved his casting. I thought it was just like it just fit the character perfectly.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Bondrud's deal. So Bondrud's the villain from Dawn of the Deep Soul, and he is, one of the big white whistles of the premier legendary raiders. And so you got to get through him in order to reach layer 6. And in Japanese, he was voiced by Toshiyuki Morikawa. And it was like credits a mile long, but so I had some deals like Dante from Devil May Cry. He voiced Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars Japanese dub. He's the Japanese voice of Sephiroth, which is really all I should have said. Also, the voice of Leon Kennedy from all of Resident Evil. So, I mean, you already had this guy, and he plays it more. He's like a little bit more on a deeper register, I guess. And so, when I was first watching it before the English dub, and then I watched Dawn of the Deep Soul again, and I was listening to this guy's name is David Harbold. David plays it on more of a higher register. He's more like, "Oh, hello, how are you doing?" And I don't think I really heard much by him before.
I have a lot of acting credits. I'm on his
a lot of acting credits, but yeah, other than like voice acting and anime stuff for like side characters.
Even then, that's pretty
he's
small.
got a bunch.
Oh, see, I'm on Behind the Voice, and there's not that many.
Yeah, there's some. I took mine from an Anime News Network, so usually like I'll see some. Usually like I see a lot of side roles for him. But this is definitely like I can look at it and go, he knows what he's doing. Like this is a very good performance, and like Bondrewd is certainly, as far as the anime side of his voice acting, which is where we're gonna stick with for purposes of this episode. Like the anime side of his voice acting, Bondrewd is like the big one, and he kind of plays him almost like an evil Alfred at times. Which, funny enough, he got to voice the butler Alfred in Batman Ninja versus Yakuza League. So
yeah, he did.
That was a fun movie. So it's one of those of like going from that and then going into Bondrewd. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of, cross pollination here, but yeah, but then he'll drop it down all of a sudden where Bondrewd's like, okay, it's get serious time.
Yeah.
And he's such a compelling, Bondrewd's just such a compelling villain. You want to hate him, but then he's so damn entertaining.
Yeah. Well, especially because like the different sides of him, and then like you feel like he's doing something nice just to be like, nope, he's not doing this for good purposes, or at least in your mind it's not good.
He'll like give this whole like speech about how he's doing this great thing as he's shoving his daughter into a briefcase to use as a weapon.
Well, especially like that scene of like how he like when Prushka was like basically like lost, like he nursed her back to health to just basically use her as fuel and power for himself, and it's just like, what the heck? Like, why are you doing this to me? Like, this is whiplash.
Yeah, it's such a pure evil insanity that it just goes so beyond any kind of like it's just so unbelievably evil that it's just such a twisted way of like fascination that I feel for him. Of just how do you come up with a villain like this?
What got me with him too is the fact that like he's like downright a villain in every way, but like when you're watching it, you're like, I don't hate him.
No, you don't hate him.
So weird.
I don't hate him either.
I can't hate him.
Even with poor little Prushka, and I think Avery Smithhart does a really good job as her as well, just really selling the innocence and naivete and just pure optimism, pure damn optimism of this little girl. And like everybody, like that's part of what makes this show like so hard sometimes. Like they just really knows when to twist the dadgum knife because it's just so optimistic all the time. Avery is also pulling in, like I know her like a Cinnabar from Land of the Lustrous, which it's a show about everyone's like a gemstone, a precious gemstone. So Cinnabar is poisonous. So like a really good thing from there. Another kind of show on, or it was on High Dive, it's not anymore, the movies are, Princess Principal, which is basically totally spies, but they're all British. She's kind of like a no-nonsense character, Ange. So I'm used to hearing her like be on the lower side and depressing register, and then she's, oh my gosh, we're going to go on an adventure. as Prushka. It's just twisting the knife. And Inori Minase, the Japanese actress, she's Hestia from Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, or like Dan Machi. She's Rem from ReZero, Lucky Cyan from the Japanese dub of To Be Hero X. Like she's playing it really high up there, like really pushing the kid aspect, whereas Avery's pushing like the naive and optimism sort of aspect of it.
Is it really bad when the second she first appeared in the movie, my first thoughts were, she's gonna die?
She's not making it out of it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sort of.
I still remember Bill
Sort of.
texted me and was like, is she gonna die? And I was like, no, she's gonna join them on the adventure. Well, all I said is she's gonna join them on the adventure, which I mean, technically,
Those
if
are the
we're being
biggest
honest,
asterisks
she does.
from a certain point of view.
She does join them on the adventure. Just not the way you think.
To be fair, my question wasn't does she join them? I was like, does she die? Which, yeah, I don't know. She got shoved in a suitcase. Like, that's basically what happened there. I don't know. All I saw was a briefcase flopping around on the ground with blood flowing out of it. So,
But she does get to go on that adventure. What do you think of our main trio here, with the interplay between like Rico, Reg, Nanachi? Rico, I think, was like more like the center, like the leader. Reg's the muscle. Nanachi's
The brains and cute.
the brains, brains and cute rabbit. She's the
brains.
survivalist and the medic.
she's like the deadpan snarker. Like, she's there for like the comic relief. Like, when, like, because like Rico's big thing is like she's very optimistic, but she constantly does like really dumb things sometimes without thinking. And then I think Reg's just kind of naive at times. Nanachi's kind of there to be like the normal one in this group of misfits, I guess you could say.
Too, we're also forgetting too that Reg also lost his memory, so he's kind of also just figuring things
True.
out as he's going on. But then at the end of season 2, it leaves off as a quartet though.
True.
Yeah, because like it was season 2 is really when things it just get weird, get really weird. So season 2, all the things that I could say about season 1 and all the details and things, like season 2 is truly another world. Like gone are the all the lush green vegetation, gone are the relatively friendly creatures. Like we are in full on desert alien, fleshy, just pink looking
Nightmare.
place. Just a nightmare realm.
Yes. Well, even I think one thing to bring up too is like how season 2 starts, where we don't even see in the first episode. If we do, it's not towards the latter half, but in the beginning, we're seeing this whole new group of people and these new characters, and you have no idea who they are, and you're kind of like, okay, like who are these people? And then when you finally get introduced to the village, you're like, wait a minute, some of these voices are similar. Why is this connected? And then you're kind of discovering of how the village was formed via this group, which is crazy.
I don't want to get too much into spoilers on a village or anything, but I find it interesting of, if you think of season 2, we've had multiple arcs through one season, and the movie is essentially an arc. All of a sudden we have basically 12 episodes to devote to one single arc, which would tell you about the significance of it.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I'd like to say, as far as this is called the Village of the Hollows, and so it is inhabited by sentient people, but they're in very different forms, and you get a sense of there's that classic quote of, when you stare into the abyss stares back.
It stares back.
So you think of this town of Orth that has grown up over the generations of people, taking loot and plunder and these magical relics out of the abyss, and this bringing them wealth and worth. And all of a sudden you have this village, as above, so below. But this is the abyss. So everything is twisted and, I should say, literalized.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where, if you want to talk about for me, that's really where I think the horror of the abyss specifically was really coming into play. Because a lot of it was,
Agreed.
surely you have the force field thing, but I think if there's anything that I'm trying to say is, like, the abyss, like, no one comes out of this place unchanged from your first dive to your last. This abyss will change you and it will twist you and warp you in various ways. And to see this basically taken to its ultimate conclusion.
There's also kind of just a horrific kind of thought about that the area they're into in this season, because there's a very one-off scene that just kind of like showcases just how scary it is down there. In the middle of the season, I'm not going to spoil the main stuff, but like there's at one point where a group they're running away from a bunch of monsters, and one of the flying creatures grabs one of them
Oh.
and flies up in the air, and I immediately didn't think about it, and then all of a sudden she blows up like a piñata, and I'm like, oh
Yeah,
right,
that's
you can't go up. I was like,
That's no
right.
good.
Because I completely didn't even think about it, and then all of a sudden I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, right, that.
Yeah, and that scene, without saying anything, that scene itself is just like, oh my god, like, ugh.
What's funny with that scene too is though, like it's another way of they also just have to like keep digging that knife in, because the character that happens to isn't a particularly major character, but it was a character that we had seen enough that you were kind of like
No.
you cared about a little bit, to the point where when it happened you just go, right, no one can be happy in this show.
Well, and
I was like, God.
And that's one thing I think about Made in Abyss characters too, is that even if they've only play a small role or they're only in just a couple episodes, I don't think there was a single person that didn't leave some sort of impact, which I feel like for a lot of stories, like you don't always see that.
But
Yes.
even like if we're talking season 2 and like that expedition, people that we feel really good about at the beginning of the show all of a sudden turn around and do some really twisted evil crap.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh,
even
yeah.
then, in some of that, you can almost see how it would make sense in their own kind of twisted logic. Like, I'm trying to help people. This is how
It's
we're
the
going to survive.
survival. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a survival. It's
Like-
all of a sudden, people are just that the abyss just pushes them to that limit that they go, okay, we're going. The theme of season 2 is, what are you willing to give up?
Because there's the scene early on where they finally go down the elevator that we had previously seen the main group go down, and they're like, oh, so we're down here now. What happens if we send some people back up? And I'm just like,
No.
I'm like, oh, so they just used these two people as guinea pigs, I see, and they did not make it.
They volunteered.
Yeah, somebody drew the short straw.
Yeah. A lot of members of the expedition don't make it for various reasons.
I think why I'm looking forward to the movies so much, it is kind of the next step, and they are, again, I haven't read the manga since 2022, so I am actually going fully blind in for this time. So I'm interested to see where they're going to go, because yeah, there is a new person in the party, and they are very special, Sotsu, which was weird to have that tick brought across in the English side, Sotsu, because it gets a little bit annoying, Sotsu. And so it's they kept enunciating it. If there's anything on an adaptation side, that's just, so you'll just have to deal with little ticks like that. But at least Nanachi doesn't have like a, she says like rabbit or something at the end of all of her sentences. I'm interested to see how that character is going to add to the team, because again, Reg's already the muscle, and part of his arc here was at least attempting to recover some memories. So we'll just have to see how it goes, because if there's one theme I would probably attach to the totality of Made in Abyss, it's probably sacrifice, or what are you willing to give up in exchange for blank. And whether or not you're going to actually get that wish, you probably, the scary thing is you probably are going to get that wish, and it's not even so much a monkey's paw scenario. I think at the end of the day, it's why I find myself returning to this world, despite all of the things that I can clearly look over and say, these scenes are a lot, or these elements from the original story are a lot. Even if they are toned down, it's still there. It still very much warrants a discussion, but it's, I don't know, when you guys are checking out a show like this, and there is like significant content, or like gore, or again, nudity, or what have you, or abuse, torture, things like that. Is there like a way that you can kind of reconcile that, or is it something it's just kind of like, yes, but?
I think sometimes a lot of it is how it's handled and how they portray it. Because
how does it contribute to the story? Yes, I think that's. I was trying to say that. I was like, how does it contribute to the story? Sorry, it just popped in my head.
Oh, No, yeah, like it's really it's like if it's going to actually create a significant impact onto the story, then I think it can be used really well because I also think a lot of people can connect to a lot of those things, like especially with like emotional abuse or even physical abuse, assault. Like it's something that like it can really impact a story for the better because it kind of shows that emotional change and the tolls that the characters went through. I know one of the shows that I'm watching right now, Gachi Akuda, I know the
Yeah,
next
yeah,
episode I'm gonna watch, there's apparently some very imagery that's gonna come up. But from all that I've heard, it's done in a very much way of like you know what's happening, but it's not like explicitly saying it, but like from just the context and the way of the storytelling, you know what's happening and you can feel deeply from it. So I'm looking forward to that. So I know these
yeah.
like tougher topics can be portrayed in great ways and with great storytelling and imagery. It's tough though. Like cuz there's some stuff in
It's a
Made in
slippery
Abyss.
slope for sure. Yeah.
Yes. There's some
Episode 13, I think, is how you do it for Gachiakata. Episode 13 is
yeah.
woof. But man,
I've kind of been holding off watching it because I'm like I know it's going to happen and a part of me is like I'm not ready for it, but I will watch it soon.
See, that's kind of how I felt watching Attack on Titan back when we were doing that. The only
I'm
problem with
sure.
Attack on
I'm
Titan,
sure.
the problem with Attack on Titan though is like no matter how much I thought I knew where it was going, I never knew where it was going because it just it was one of those constant things where it's like you think you have it figured out, and then a curveball comes out of nowhere, and you just go, "What even is this show anymore?"
It doesn't always have to be like a physical assault, like sometimes it's like mental stuff, because one of the shows I really loved this year and I just really connected with it was the a show Medalist, where for me I really connected with the main male character, where he was a figure skater coach who was really passionate about figure skating but got into the sport really late, and for me I was really able to like kind of connect with it and like some of the like physical and mental things that he went through and how they portrayed it and like how they showed like him kind of struggling to get by and struggling to figure out like is this what I want to do, is this like my future, like it's I love when a story can get you that invested, and whether it be something like more like relatable of like just like more of a mental health struggle versus like a physical trauma. Like I think animation can portray that so well when used correctly.
Do y'all have any final thoughts on Made in Abyss you want to head up before we wrap this up? Anything that you think you've like that little miscellaneous section here?
Bill? I'll leave Bill to answer first.
I'll say if you can get past the slow start, once you get into like the real like meat and potatoes of this show, like especially with like the third movie and like the second season, like it'll hook you and you just want it's one of those shows that makes you really want to know what happens next. Because I won't lie, this wasn't really a show I probably would have picked on my own just from my personal tastes, but now that I've gotten this far in, I've looked far enough into the abyss, I have to see what happens next.
Yeah, and I'd say for me kind of similar of if you get very into like a world and wanting to discover the aspects of that world and kind of the nitty-gritty of like where the story's going, this is definitely a show for you. I know for me like I like started like reading people's theories of like the abyss and like what they're going to see and like what's happening, and I find the or like theories of like how the world exist and how the timelines work and how the abyss has been here for like I find it like really cool and really fascinating. So for me, if you're into a show where you just like want to know everything about the world, this is definitely a show for you.
Yeah, the abyss feels like a constant. It's one of those like
Yeah.
you get down and you get a sense that this has been here long. Like you see the ruins and things. Like this has been here long before we got here, and it's probably going to still be here long after we leave. And it's just the way that they're able to make that location. You know, very very few times we have a central place like this. You set a show. It's not like you're set in one location, but like the abyss really truly feels like a character in the show, and it feels very much like an antagonist character in the
Mhm.
show. That I feel it's very compelling to see how people have both figured it out over the years and still get caught off guard. You know, it's
Yeah.
it does that classic thing of the show and the abyss itself are in tandem of lulling you into a false sense of security and then ripping it away as soon as you look away. I find one thing interesting when I'm thinking about combat in this show. Every time the group or every time Reg tried to face something head on, it almost never works out for him.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, this is a show about fight smart, not harder. You know, a person who has a big laser beam is not defeated by a bigger laser beam. I feel like that just really goes into, because again, these are literal children and going up against adults. Almost every adult in this show, but especially when you get down to the abyss, all the adults in this show are terrible people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's really everyone for themselves. And so to see these three characters, Rico, Nanachi, and Reg, have to rely on each other so strongly, and then as they slowly, like, it's not that they get stronger, air quotes, physically, they just get more adept.
Yep.
And it's almost like Prushka and the little pet Mania, and as they get more skills, it's almost like they're getting items in a Zelda dungeon that let them unlock just one more puzzle to let them get to this little next spot. Even just the information warfare that they have to deal with, because no one can be trusted down here. Everybody's a terrible person until you find the one person who isn't, or the few people who aren't. And then you just have to cherish them like your life depends on it, because it probably does. Oh man, we've been talking a good while. Like this is just one of those shows. Like, there's so much detail. There's so many things to pull in that it's just get going on forever and ever. But I think we hit the.
And there's so much stuff we don't know.
So much to don't know. It's an incredible mystery, and just I look forward to seeing how this story is going to develop. The manga is being published at an agonizingly slow rate. And he just does it when he feels like it, basically. So even in 2022, I think he was basically on the edge of another hiatus or another break of sorts. So I'm looking forward to the new movie, and I don't think it's going to be the end or even close, but I'm excited to see the brave new frontier, and of course what new horrors lie therein. Happy Halloween.
Yep.
Yeah, I hope to be sharing more in the future and to be talking with y'all when we do see that movie finally. Maybe it will even get in the theaters. Everything's getting a theater run now.
Yeah.
So like, I'm ready to go see the Chainsaw Man movie.
Same. Can't wait for that.
I'm very excited to see that. So I hope this one gets the same treatment, and I can just kind of have that 1,000-yard stare when I walk out of the movie theater for Made in Abyss, and just
never the
same again. But yeah, thank you very much for talking. This is a challenging show to talk about for sure.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's it was fun to navigate. With that being said, this has been another episode of the Anime Field Guide. Definitely check out the Gaming and Collecting podcast with Bill and Alex. I'll of course have all the links down in the show notes. And tell me how the episode went. Let me know down in the show notes on Spotify or YouTube. Our email address, animefieldguide@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for listening. And until then, stay safe and watch more cartoons.